Hi, I'm Ted from Everything Attachments, and we're here today with our subcompact plow, which is specifically designed for subcompacts. Now, this plow will work on a standard size tractor up to about a category 1, a class 1 tractor, like a B tractor in the Kubota line. You could use it on a little larger tractor, but your geometry is going to start getting off. We've done a lot to make this specifically for subcompacts, which usually have a couple of things going. They're low profile. Their stabilizers are coming from the center to the outside a lot of the time. They usually have a fairly wide tire, even though it's not that tall. So where a plow needs to be set up and tracked is usually way to one side to be able to get your furrow to where you're able to put your next row with your tire in the furrow. Now, we'll be doing a video on how to use this. We've got one now, but we're going to do a new one. Because it took a lot of experimenting of how wide we actually had to get this movable bar to work on the smallest of the tractors. So since the bars are pulled from the inside with the stabilizers in most cases, we've even put little gussets on the inside here to keep these inner ears from being pulled in. We've dropped them down to help with the height. And there's a reason this isn't quick attach and this is short, so that you're able to keep the shorter this is, the more straight your plow will stay under the ground. As you lift, if this comes up higher, it tries to tilt more. So it's specifically designed to be low profile. Okay, and so for the subcompact tractors, a lot of times, especially when you're making your first garden, you're doing it on some type of sod, grass, weeds, vines, something. It makes a lot of help if you put this coulter attachment on, which cuts through the sod, weeds, whatever it is, to allow the grass to be ready to separate as the moldboard gets to it to flip it. Now, with plows in general, there's nobody that I know of that's making 100% of their plow, and they're buying a lot of Chinese components. The only piece on this plow that we don't make in-house is this disc and this bottom share. Now, that share comes from Empire Plow. It's an American company, and we like it. And my dad always told me when we go to trade for plows to fill them from side to side, to make sure how much wear was left in them. And we used to sell a lot of plow parts because this used to be a farming community. Now we just raise houses. But this is a full 3/8 thick moldboard that we make in-house. It's grade 50 steel, a replaceable shin on the front of it. It's grade 50 steel. All these bolts are countersunk, makes for a nice slide. It's got an extra dip right here, which helps the air get in here. If your soil's like our red clay and it's a little bit moist, it'll let air come in here to let that cavitate a little bit and let it roll over much easier. Now, I've looked at a lot of plows that are for sale, and they have a funky little wing on them. I've been to Japan 27 times, an Asian country. That's the types of plows they use there. So I'm pretty sure they're using a Chinese plow. Okay, so just for giving you a back view, you can see that we've put 2 3/8 braces on here to make sure this moldboard never bends, and that's what we do on our bigger plows, just to make sure it's good. And this is called the frog that's up in there. It's made in-house. This also has 2 bolts that hold this complete moldboard with a small bolt at the top, so if you hit a deep rock or root or something, it will let this smaller bolt shear instead of ripping the hitch off of your tractor. Okay, so we're going to talk about the gauge wheel. So tractors in general have 2 basic kinds of lifts, and that's your hydraulic lift. If you have a lever that goes from top to bottom, and every little bit you bring it up brings it up a little bit, that's a position lift or a quadrant lift. And they're really easy to plow with in relation to what's usually on a subcompact, which has a neutral and either a lowering position and a raising position. But there's no exact how do I return back to the same spot or how do I raise it slowly. So a gauge wheel Once you've set the depth for the plow that you like to plow at, you just simply drop it, leave it down, and the gauge wheel does its work. So while the gauge wheel does its work, we've even put a grease fitting on it here because it's going to constantly be rolling. And we looked at so many different plows, and we looked for a wheel for our plow, and all we can find are these $10 and $14 junk Chinese plows with rubber tires on them. And even in one summer in the sun, you're likely going to have a cracked open tire that's of little to no use to you, and you're going to need to go to some Chinese replacement, Harbor Freight or something, and replace it yearly maybe. So we go to the trouble to cut a 6-inch pipe to make this wheel, cut this on the flat laser, and make everything so it'll be here for your grandkids. So we were talking earlier about this extended length drawbar and why we do it for the subcompacts. It also, the best thing about it is, and you all know how hard it is to adjust those center links because they're up in the center of your tractor, your attachment's close, and you just don't have much room there. Once you set these to the distance you want them, and you can do it with a tape measure, you can do them while it's not attached to the attachment, and then you back up to the clevis hitch and they'll always fit in between and you're not going to have to readjust them. That's a huge help. This gauge wheel, you can move it forwards or backwards, and of course up and down to adjust everything that you want to there. These are lifetime plows, and if your grandkids have problems with them, just have your grandkids call my grandkids at Everything Attachments.